Well, greetings and salutations. It is Robert Meyer Burnett here, not John Campea, but I am doing this special companion video. And by the way, I am late doing it. I apologize. John has been under the weather. He's asked me to fill in, and I had crazy work and family obligations, so I didn't get this done as soon as I should have. And that is on me, ladies and gentlemen. You guys are the lifeblood of this channel. We love you here at the John Campea Show. So these super chat questions are very important to us. And by the way, to be honest, I kind of love answering them. So here I am answering them to the best of my ability. And let's have a good time doing it. First of all, we have Stage Master here. He says, will there be a Dragon Ball action movie reboot in the next years to come? If that is, if they ever make one again. The last one sucks. You know what? The Dragon Ball Z franchise has been around for so long in so many different incarnations. I can't believe that they won't make one. Eventually, they have to. Taylor Garian says, did you see the Terminator Mortal Kombat 11 reveal trailer? Oh, yes, I did. Now, let me tell you. I mean, I played Mortal Kombat when it was new, back when, I don't know, they still had horse-drawn carriages in addition to video games. That Mortal Kombat release trailer was dope. Oh my God, how much fun was it? I don't think it made me want to go get Mortal Kombat 11 like right away and get it. I haven't played it yet, but just because of that, I want to. Weapon X says, what was the Marvel's creative stipulation if Far From Home crosses $1 billion? I don't know, to be honest. I'm not up on that. I'm not really sure what that is going to be. I can't say, but I guess I have to read more about it, but I'm sure something over $1 billion. I mean, I think they said that if it was over $1 billion, you know what? I'd have to look it up. I don't know the answer to that. I'll have to get back to you. So my God Ruler says, see South Park last night mocked China box office? Yes. The Trey Parker and Matt Stone have been in, is it Matt Stone, Trey Parker? Trey Parker and Matt Stone have been in the news lately. They're trolling China. I think it's glorious. God love South Park. God love them. Richard Lyon says, after the YA adaptations conversation yesterday, do you see them ever rebooting the Harry Potter series? Would it work better as a TV show like Game of Thrones? That's a really interesting question. I mean, I don't know if they ever would reboot Harry Potter. I could see them... there's talk of a new Harry Potter movie. There's Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, obviously, in a different incarnation other than the movies or books. Well, like I said, it's a book too. But I could see, I don't know if they'll ever reboot it, but they might continue it. Although they could reboot it sometime, I guess, maybe show more. But I don't know. You've got Fantastic Beasts going, which is it's a prequel. Maybe sometime in the future. I just think they're going to keep making more Harry Potter movies. That's what I think. Josh Stenberg, 102, saw your video about rude people in the theater. What do you make of people who expect no noise? I was 12 when my mother took me to Jurassic Park 2, and I got reported because I gasped. Sister and I went to Stuber. Granted, she's had a drink, but a woman on my other side reported her because she laughed. Okay, that's... There, you know what? Here's the thing. When you go to a theater, there's certain behavior that is communal, it's expected, and it makes the experience fun. So I think that's ridiculous. Oh, 3 of 3. Josh Stenberg goes on to say, reported her because she laughed too much and was whispering a little too loud. I found myself inwardly wondering if my sister was going to get arrested, but it was Stuber. Yeah, sorry, didn't continue on there, but I have to say that when you go to the movie theater, it is, after all, a communal experience. And part of the fun of going to movies is screaming when appropriate, gasping when appropriate, laughing in comedies. I mean, the better the comedy is, the better the communal experience is. I mean, I used to go to one specific theater when I was growing up just to see slasher movies because the audience was, let's just say, vocal. And it was a lot more fun. Suthius is here. Suthius says, hey, Mr. C, loving the John Campea thoughts on walks. When we get to hear your thoughts on various subjects in a very relaxing manner and surrounding. Yeah, I don't know those myself. I have not yet watched one. John told me about them. I might have to do those myself. I think I'm going to rip off that idea. I just learned everything I need to know about being on social media and YouTube from John Campea anyway, so why shouldn't I steal yet something else from him? Weapon X says, would a big budget MCU style Dragon Ball Z film series work? I don't know, man. Dragon Ball Z is definitely popular, but that would be, I think, tougher to do. I don't know if it would necessarily be a 4-quadrant movie, 4-quadrant being it hits all the age groups. I don't know. But, I think anything can work. In this day and age, there's one thing we've learned. Anything can work if it's done correctly. Weapon X also says, Rob, you should stop Hot Toys and buy Prime 1 statues. Well, here's something that Weapon X is addressing to me. Okay, for those of you who don't know, you can actually see behind me some of my Hot Toys. There's Jarrell, by the way. I drool over Prime 1 statues. For those of you who don't know, Prime 1 statues are like these gorgeous $1,000, unbelievable statues. They're amazing. But that is a rabbit hole that just scares me to death. And I could never do it. I stick with 6 scale. It's what I grew up loving. I'm just going to stay there. No 1/12 for me. No Prime 1. If I went down that rabbit hole, I'd want everything. And I would never be able to afford a big house. I would never have anywhere to put them eventually. But man, are they cool. Suthius says, color choices for Rey's garbs intrigue me. To me, they are akin to Lord of the Rings wizardry. The Force Awakens, Rey the Brown. The Last Jedi, Rey the Gray. And now, Rise of Skywalker, Rey the White. Suthius, that is a great observation. I like that. I think you're right about that. Jim Riley says, do you think the MCU Spider-Man movies will be on Disney+? Good question. I would imagine they may have some deal for them. I guess we're going to know on November 12th, but good question. I would hope so. I do believe the Spider-Man movies are actually in the Infinity Saga big box set that Best Buy you can order for like $600. It's amazing. It's all 4K, but I would hope so. Stage Master says, sorry, John, I meant Dragon Ball live action. No, I knew. Absolutely. I knew what you meant. Nate Bush says, 1 out of 2. I sent in my top 5 comic book movies in the other day, and I had a V for Vendetta in it. Then you began to inform me on the semantics of comic book movie after watching Joker. Do you think it holds up as a comic book movie? I really enjoyed it, and the subtext spoke volumes. Glad they had the guts to make this. Keep up the great work. Well, to me, man, V for Vendetta is absolutely a comic book movie. The character of V is, in a way, a superhero, and the original comic was written by Alan Moore, and it was drawn by David Lloyd, and it's one of the great comic books of all. It just isn't a superhero movie, but I definitely think V for Vendetta is a comic book movie. It definitely counts. If John said, no, it doesn't count, he's wrong. That's what I have to say. I love V for Vendetta. And you know what? Joker is the most uncomic book movie ever, and it shows that you can move away from that kind of source material. You can take the source material and treat it very, very differently. You can bring it into the real world. It's amazing. I think Joker is truly a transcendent comic book movie, but ultimately it is still a comic book sourced film, which I think is great. Slim Trav says, realize the MCU, Black Widow and Eternals, DC, Wonder Woman 84, and Birds of Prey, and Sony, Morbius, and Venom all have to have 2 comic book films each coming in 2020. Seems like next year is anyone's year. What an exciting year. What a great bunch of stuff. I mean, Black Widow, I'm curious to see being a prequel. Of course, Eternals, what a cast. It's going to be amazing. It's really going to move. We'll see how it's going to move the MCU forward. Exciting. Wonder Woman 84, can't wait for that. And Birds of Prey, I don't know about Birds of Prey. It looks weird, looks strange, looks enjoyable. I'm in. Count me in. And then, of course, Sony. Morbius, what is that going to be? I mean, Morbius, the living vampire, who knew? And then, of course, Andy Serkis doing Venom 2 is probably going to make $1 billion. Big year next year. Pretty exciting. I always say we live in wondrous times, and these are wondrous times indeed. I'm deliriously excited for 2020. And what I love about 2020 is it's all kind of up in the air. I mean, are we going to see a Carnage? What does a period Wonder Woman movie look like in the 80s as opposed to during World War I? That's crazy. How is the Eternals going to be? What's it going to be like? I don't know. But I'm excited. Ben Jesusa says, after seeing Joker, All I have are positive thoughts. What an intense, dark, psychologically but beautifully written movie. One bad day, favorite of 2019. You know what I just love seeing? I love everybody's differing opinions about Joker. Some people love it, some people are disappointed. I was kind of mixed, but I love the fact that people are talking about this movie more than they've talked about it. I can't remember a movie that was talked about more than this one, especially amongst the genre film community. It's terrific. Emad says over or under 10% Joker doesn't get any Oscar nominations. I'm going to say under. I think it absolutely is going to get some Oscar nominations. First of which, I'm really betting on Joaquin Phoenix and definitely one for cinematography for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised if Joker gets an original score nomination. What an amazing score that is. Emad goes on to say, I teared up multiple times watching Joker. I honestly can't remember the last time a movie resonated with me the way this one did. 10 out of 10 for me. You know, a lot of people have been. I've been receiving letters on my own channel about people that are deeply, deeply affected by it, especially those who are suffering from mental illness and understand what Arthur Fleck is going through in the movie. JMeister25 says, expertly acted, edited, and shot, Joker is a win. It's a reflective piece of art that puts the spotlight on those who feel misunderstood and rejected by a system that promised to take care of them. A+. Well, JMeister25, absolutely. It's definitely about our healthcare system. It's definitely about how the government is not taking care of our population. I think that was definitely a big message of the film, and certainly Arthur Fleck's plight was beautifully portrayed, and there's a lot of people, I'm sure, that can relate. James Lockman says, 1 of 2, my mind was blown last night, John. I absolutely loved Joker. I was eating up every second that Joaquin was on screen. This film was beautifully shot. There were so many times when I was saying to myself how great this shot was, how great that angle was for this shot. I was actually getting chills from taking in all this greatness that was unfolding before my eyes. I'm going again Saturday. Well, James, I got to tell you, I'm with you. I thought Joker was an unbelievably well-crafted film. It is really, really exquisitely made on every level. I mean, every single image in the film. If it wasn't haunting, it could have been hung on a museum. Amazing, amazing stuff. Kudos to everybody involved. What an achievement. Ryan Lohner says, I thought using a Gary Glitter song made a perfect subtext with the scene, and it's not like he's benefiting at all from behind bars. Yeah, I thought it was a little weird. Of all the stuff he could pick, Rock and Roll Part 2, it is Gary Glitter. I also thought, now go with me here, were they insinuating that there was any sexual abuse at the hands of Joker's mother? I didn't know. I mean, we find out he was very abused by her later, but I didn't know. I thought it was a really interesting choice. I always liked that song, but after Gary Glitter was revealed as being the kind of guy he was, that song certainly fell from favor. So it was interesting to hear it in the film. But you make a good point. Gary Glitter probably did not benefit at all from it. Luke1234 says, I'm a guess, 130 to 150 opening weekend for Joker. Well, we know now that it was 93 million domestic, but it made another 140. So we're looking at like a $230 million opening weekend for Joker. My God, how amazing is that? James Lockman says 1 of 2. As I left the theater, I kept asking myself if I liked Joker better than Booksmart, and I couldn't answer that question. I love Booksmart, but I'm going to have to watch Joker a couple more times and wait till this buzz I'm feeling dies down before I can truly answer. But I'll tell you what, this is definitely my top 3 films of the year to date. There's still some great looking films coming. I would say The Irishman. I'm deliriously excited for that. Hey Q says, hi John, do you like 2001 A Space Odyssey and how does it compare to Ad Astra? Personally, I think 2001 is creepier and a bit of a thriller. 2001 is my favorite movie one of my favorite movies of all time. I certainly think it's the greatest science fiction movie ever made. Ad Astra really let me down, at least with the science, and I understand what it was trying to do, but I think it should have paid a little bit more attention to the realities of space travel, whereas 2001, 2001 begins with the dawn of man and ends with man's evolution into a new being. What a vision. I mean, Ad Astra, different kind of a movie. Hector Figueroa says, I still need to see who would win in a dance-off. Joaquin Phoenix or Tobey Maguire. Wow. Joker was good, not great. However, it goes on to show that it only takes one person to start a movement. It did. My only problem with the movie, as I've said to people, I wish Joker was aware that he was starting a movement, that was his intent in the first place. After all, this town needs an enema. Ben Rothman 3 says, old film, but do you like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. I love Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. George Roy Hill, the director, knocked it out of the park. What a classic film and what a classic ending. If you guys haven't seen Redford Newman in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, what are you waiting for? Timothy Plate says, come at it with an open mind, but Joker was everything I feared it was going to be. Loved Joaquin's performance, but hated the movie as a whole. Too many aggravating story decisions. See, this is what I love about Joker. Whether you love it or whether, like Timothy, you hate it, people are talking about it. They're espousing their ideas. It's getting people to discuss. And that means it's a zeitgeist movie. It's going to be talked about and puzzled over for years to come. And I think we're all the better for it, whether you like the movie or not. What a moment for cinema. Chris Cortez says, your thoughts on a John Wick Atomic Blonde crossover? Chris, I'm in. I don't know if we could ever see it because Atomic Blonde also was a period piece. But you know what? Charlize Theron, how is the world not a better place with everything that she's in? I mean, the fact that they brought her into the Fast and Furious franchise, showing, I'm all down. Furiosa can do no wrong as far as I can say. Timothy Plate also says, please tell me you're doing a spoiler review for Joker. I need to talk about that ending. Yeah, well, we will be able to talk about that because John did do a spoiler review, and I'm going to do a follow-up to this video where I answer some questions from his spoiler review, which I'm very excited to do because I didn't get to answer any questions about Joker because I wasn't on. Devontae Brown says, sad to hear you didn't like Euphoria, but if you want a realistic depiction of teens' life, that's it. Maybe it's too nasty and traumatizing for you. I got to say, man, you know, we got teenage girls in the house. Euphoria scared me to death. And yeah, I thought so too. That was kids today, man. You and your social media, look where it leads. Nowhere good. But well-made show, beautifully done. James Lockman says 1 out of 2. Hey, John, I have the best PlayStation 4 recommendation, and it's called PS Now. It's like Netflix, but with games. For $9.99 a month, you can play hundreds of games from PS2, PS3, and PS4. They've made improvements. Well, that's amazing. To the service, you can stream or download the games. They have Until Dawn, that RPG Ni no Kuni I told you about, and the best of all, they have Day of the Tentacle, plus other great games. I got to get into that. I'm really behind. I'm still running a PlayStation 3. I know, terrible. Jersey Kid says, that Richard Jewell movie looks intriguing to me. I attended the 96 Olympics with my aunt. I was walking to an event right as the bomb situation happened. That's crazy. Richard Jewell looks really good. And the story of Richard Jewell is really interesting. It's right up. Can anybody believe Clint Eastwood's still making movies at 90 almost? He's almost 90. He's directing movies. Amazing. Alex Haynes says, I'm good friends with Tom Hanks. He said he would love to meet Anne on one condition: you release to the public of all footage of you break dancing. Alex, I would pay good money to see John Campea break dancing. I have no idea what that's like, but I really want to see it. And if you really know Tom Hanks, this might be the only way. So help us, Tom Hanks. You're our only hope. Alex Haynes says, hadn't thought of this until recently, but I see why they decided not to go with Infinity War Part 2 for Avengers 4. Endgame was a wildly different movie from Infinity War and didn't really feel like a Part 2. I agree with you. I'm glad they didn't do that. I'm glad it stands on its own and people can discuss. I mean, again, what I loved about Endgame and Infinity War was, like Joker, all of the discussion. It was great. I love it when people are so engaged by movies and they're talking about them and thinking about them. It's always good for the business and movies and we as fans. It's great. Alex Haynes says, have you seen the 1917 behind-the-scenes featurette? It increased my excitement for the movie tenfold. Deakins doing a one-shot film is pretty much a lock for cinematography, right? Well, Alex, I did watch that behind-the-scenes featurette, and it is amazing. You can see just how amazingly ridiculous those shots are. It had to all be done in camera with a little digital enhancement, I'm sure. But, you know, it is kind of a trick, but still what they're doing, it is amazing. It's amazing what they're doing. I can't wait to see. John and I saw the new trailer for 1917 before Joker, and it looks to be amazing. Micah T says, I think the scene early in Endgame between Tony and Steve is just one example that disproves Martin Scorsese's comments about the MCU, in my opinion. Well, here's the thing. I love the MCU. I've grown up reading comic books, but I think what Martin Scorsese was saying is that the MCU is very different from, say, an Ingmar Bergman movie or a person that I love. I love Antonioni. You know, I love his Ennui trilogy, La Notte, La Ventura, The Eclipse. But I couldn't tell anybody that loves the MCU movies today to go back and watch those movies because I think a lot of people it would be like watching paint dry. But I know what he's saying. I mean, Scorsese is a director that's dealing with the here and the now, and there is a certain unreality and a certain fantastical element no matter what you do with the MCU. However, I am dying to hear what he thinks of Joker. And does that disprove his theory about comic book movies? Because that movie was certainly based on, of course, his movies Taxi Driver and why am I drawing a blank on the other film? Because I've been talking about it all day long. But they're based in Scorsese movies and King of Comedy. And it'll be interesting to hear what he has to say about Joker. I really want to know. But you're right, Micah. Murray Reich says, saw Joker last night. It was great. Joaquin's performance was fabulous. Felt more like an indie flick than a comic book movie. Slow burn, but it pays off. The Murray Franklin show scene was intense. 9 out of 10. Well, Murray, you are not wrong. Murray Reich also says, this doesn't matter, but I noticed that they didn't show the DC logo at the beginning of the opening credits of Joker. Only Warner Brothers Pictures. Any thoughts? I thought it was great. They used the old Warner Brothers Picture logo from the 70s that I really enjoyed. Actually, it was great to see it again. But I think that, you know, they wanted viewers to go in and disassociate it from the DCEU. They literally wanted it to be a standalone movie, as if with that opening Warner Brothers logo, as if it was a period piece unto itself. And that was before that DC logo even existed. So I thought it was really cool. I really like what they did. Murray Reich also says, Joaquin has made a hard case for the Oscars, but damn, there are still more films to come out that we may think are better than Joker. Who knows? I'm really looking forward to The Irishman. I think it's going to win Best Picture. That's, of course, having not seen it. So who really knows? I certainly don't. Shamanth, this is a tough one. Shamanth Ramchandra. What a cool name. Absolutely love Joker. My only sort of issue with the movie is that it's not really about the DC Comics Joker. It's a different character. That is indeed correct. It is a different look at the character. There's been so many different incarnations of the Joker throughout the years that I just see it as it is just another version of the Joker, which I think is tremendous. Think of it as an Elseworlds tale. Jason Espinosa says, love that Joker. I loved that in the original Tim Burton 1989 Batman. Let me say it again. Love that Joker. And apparently many of you do too. A fan of Peanuts says, John, it's funny how Rotten Tomatoes still has its Joker certified fresh rating, 75% or above symbol on Joker, yet it's statistically fallen to 69%, or as Bill and Ted would say, 69, dude. Yes, probably. But you know what? It was at 75% at one point. Jeremy Rush says, Vinny Gambino, a Spider-Man lawyer, from your mouth to God's ears. A fan of Peanuts says Joker will be the all-time number one rated R-rated film gross. The number one R-rated film. Maybe. I mean, is it going to exceed? Wasn't that It? Maybe that was horror, but I'm not sure what the number one R-rated movie is. But you might be right. I mean, it really depends. And will they get to play it in China? Who knows? Murray Reich says, I've seen Joker in Prime, but I've also seen other movies in Dolby. I couldn't figure out what's the difference between the two. Any thoughts? Well, I saw Elizabeth and I saw Joker with John in a Dolby cinema. And my God, for me, it's all about sound and image and the blacks and the sound. And it just looked astonishing. So I was just excited to be there. Diego Mendez says, went to see Joker last night, and I still can't figure out why people keep saying it condones violence. Still an amazing experience of a movie. I agree with you, Diego. I think just the opposite. It's a movie that violence is horrifying, it is fast, it is ugly, it is brutal, and it is awful. And I don't think it condones violence at all. Gojira Skywalker says, greetings, John, you were right. Dine-In is the best. I got the Chipotle chicken melt with an electric lemonade, and it was so good. Also loved Joker. Well, Gojira, that's great. I'm glad you did. Frankie Gouge says, have you ever come across unexpectedly a film that knocks it out of the park for you? Watch Destination Wedding for some unknown reason with Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. The entire film is dialogue between them commenting about wedding, life, love, and relationships. Very different than I expected. You know, you're not the first person to tell me that. I want to check that movie out. I love Keanu Reeves. I love Winona Ryder. I like to see her get more work. I mean, I grew up with her. She doesn't work enough. You see her in Stranger Things. She did play Spock's mom at one point, but I'd like to see more of that, and she stars, so count me in. I'm going to go check that out. A fan of Peanuts says, again, saw Joker last night. Easily, to me, the best performance this year. Give him that Oscar. Love that Joker. No glisten, no glamour, raw, somber, dark character study. 9.6. Tom Gillard says, got to see Gemini Man on Monday. Get to see Gemini Man on Monday. That would be today. John Campea is seeing Gemini Man today as well, which is also very exciting. Shamanth Ramachandra, this name is amazing. I'd love to have this name. Joker had zero comic booky elements in it. Felt like an indie movie with a comic book label on it, if that makes sense, which will turn some people off. TJS says Campea plus Harloff in 4 to 6 weeks. You know what? I'm not at a liberty to discuss anything I may or may not know about John Campea teaming up with Christian Harloff. But wouldn't it be good if it did? Ryan C. says, Joker is one of the best and most disturbing movies. Ryan C., it certainly was that. You and I park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. Carlos Herrera says, awesome. Even though I saw some things coming, it kept me guessing and on the edge. Sad to think that there's people who suffer mentally that way. You know what? Deshow. Deshow just sent in a super chat. I want to say, Carlos, you're right, and I think that's a part of the movie that we can't ever forget. The Joker really sheds a light on, or Joker sheds a light on mental illness and what happens when people are in the system trying to get the medicine they need and they can't. It is a cruel, uncaring world. Esteval Garcia says, John, imagine if the DC universe started with Joker. Esteval, how cool would that be? Who knows what the rest of the movies would be that we would get? As a matter of fact, who's to say it couldn't? I would love to see a series of DC Universe movies or some kind of a DC universe set in the same world that Joker depicts. Very interesting. If that's Gotham, what's going on over in Metropolis or Star City for that matter? Buddy Big says, can't be the only one that got a twisted Dark Knight vibe with Joker theme, am I? I don't think so, buddy. But I got some of that. I got some Dark Knight twisted vibes. You know, The Dark Knight, if you guys haven't read Frank Miller's The Dark Knight, amazing. I don't know if you're referring to The Dark Knight or the movie, but The Dark Knight comics, certainly. Jack Richard says, do you know or have you heard anything about Studio Ghibli being on the Disney Plus service? I can't seem to find any information on it. You know what? That's a good question. I don't know. It'd be nice. I mean, Disney did. John Lasseter was instrumental in getting those out through Disney. Good question, but I don't know the answer to that. That's something we should look into. Richard Lyon says, Fleck's laughing fits were painful to watch. The subtle facial expressions where you could see the sadness under the laughter was some unreal acting. Richard, I don't even know how he did that. Twisting his body, the contortions. Ugh, it was painful to watch. Christopher Mason says, saw it last night. I loved it. It's great, right? Senor Eric says to me, Joker is a modern day classic. A lot of people say that. I wonder how what is time going to say? What is history going to say? We don't know yet. Angel Chang says, no spoilers, but the last 20 minutes, god damn. You're right, Angel. Absolutely. Jack Dries says, seeing Joker next Friday in 70mm, can't wait. That'll be cool. I wonder what it looks like on film. Nixon Snell says, my mom won't see Joker because she sees JP as a kid from space. She sees Nixon Sells says my mom won't see Joker because she sees Joaquin Phoenix as the kid from Space Camp. I'm 14 and can't wait to see Joker in my theater, and that starts movies on time. Well, Nixon, sorry I couldn't say your name there, but that's very funny that your mom says that. Of course, Joaquin Phoenix was in Space Camp, and if you guys haven't seen Space Camp, you should get on it, son and daughters, whomever you are, see Space Camp. Epic Dub Time 23 says, got my first pack of Zevia last night. Tasty. I don't know, I can't go there. I'm still a Diet Coke guy. I love the chemical burn. Zevia is not bad, though. I don't know if I could drink it the way John does. Marie Seifring says, do you think Joaquin Phoenix will be nominated for Best Actor Oscar for Joker? Thanks, and love the show. Well, I think he is. I think he's got pretty much a lock to be nominated, not necessarily a lock to win. Got to see what happens during the rest of the year. Ed Matthews says, with no spoilers, what's your favorite comic book movie this year? I'm still stuck between Endgame and Joker for very different reasons. Well, you know, Ed, I just adored Endgame, and I was a little lukewarm on Joker, so I'm going to go Endgame, but Joker is certainly a different kind of an achievement. I mean, I liked Endgame and Infinity War certainly because of I never thought I would see that kind of comic book material writ large on the big screen like they were. Amazing. I was blown away. Blown away. Rafael El Guapo Castillo says, Joker reminds me of a 1970s William Friedkin film. I found it outstanding, disturbing, and a brave Oscar-worthy performance by Joaquin Phoenix. Agree with you 100%. For those of you who don't know what some of William Friedkin's 1970s films are, well, there's The Exorcist, there's French Connection, there's Sorcerer, Cruising might be 1980. He was one of my favorite directors, and you know what? You got to see his 1985 crime thriller with Willem Dafoe and William Peterson, To Live and Die in L.A. Check that out. But, also, if you haven't seen Taxi Driver, which is Martin Scorsese's, I believe it's 76, and King of Comedy, check those out because the Joker owes a huge debt of gratitude to those movies. Casinema Review says, happy Triple Force Friday, everyone. Okay, this question came in on Friday. It's now the following Monday. But if you didn't know, Triple Force Friday was on Friday. And for those of you who love Hot Toys figures, yes, indeed, the Mandalorian figure did go on pre-order at Sideshow Toys or SideshowToy.com. And along with, people were posting Mandalorian Black Series figures. And I only collect 6 scale, but it was very exciting. Also, IG-11, Taika Waititi's character, who is a distant cousin to IG-88, who, if you read Tales of the Bounty Hunters, took over the Death Star 2 right before it exploded. But that's neither here nor there. But that also went on pre-order, so how cool is that? So happy Triple Force Monday. The Cost says, back from Joker, movie is not for fragile minds. Or maybe fragile minds need the Joker to finally break them in half. Kevin Lewis says, comic book movies use crayons, Joker painted by brush. But who's to say if you can't do real art with crayons? But I know what you mean. It was elegant. It was very provoking. And as all good art is. Jim Riley says, what was your biggest surprise movie of 2019? It's a good question. What was my biggest surprise movie of 2019? I don't know. I will say Joker was. Because it was different than I thought it was going to be, and I went a lot further than I thought it was going to. So I was definitely surprised by Joker and knocked out by it. Even though I had problems and I didn't think it was the greatest movie in the world, but it still was a knockout. Kevin Lewis says, F all y'all, Joker is the best origin comic book movie. That very well could be, but it's an origin movie, but is it a comic book movie? I don't know. I mean, it is and it isn't. Raymond Verrata says, with Joker, Venom, Deadpool, Suicide Squad forming a successful villain anti-hero genre of comic book movies, who else do you want to see? You know what? I don't know if I'm ever going to see him. I wanted to see Mr. Sinister. I thought Mr. Sinister would show up in Logan. I've always loved Mr. Sinister as a villain, but I'd also like to see a really mean, powerful Lex Luthor. I want to see Darkseid. But again, it's hard to say. I want to see the big, larger-than-life supervillains being... that's why I love Thanos so much. I want to see more of that. S-Beam says, Red Dead Redemption 2 on PC, November 5th. Get on it, bro. I heard that. I heard Red Dead Redemption's coming out on PC, but, you got to play it on a PlayStation, right? PlayStation 4. James Bonner says, to each their own, but in my opinion, was brilliant. I assume, James, you're talking about Joker. But that's the great thing about this movie is there's so many different people's opinions. I love it. It's great. Kevin Lewis says the Joker begs for a Batman in his universe. Well, we did see a young Batman, but again, if Batman grew up, I don't know how old the Joker is, but if you go by Joaquin Phoenix's age, he'll be in the geriatric ward before he fights Batman. But who's to say Arthur Fleck has to be as old as Joaquin Phoenix? He's an actor. We could say Arthur Fleck he was just emaciated and looked terrible, and he's actually 30. Maybe when he gets healthy, he'll be more virile and live longer. Who knows? Kevin Lewis says, Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, hell, Cesar Romero have all benefited retroactively by the origin story of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. You know, Kevin, that's a really interesting thought. I never thought that, but you are correct. Kevin Lewis also says, the people who don't like this new Joker movie think that Norman Rockwell is a better artist than Vincent van Gogh. Well, Norman Rockwell is a very different artist than Vincent van Gogh. And Vincent van Gogh is definitely a great artist, but I don't know if you asked Vincent van Gogh to paint Americana the way Norman Rockwell did, uh, could Vincent van Gogh capture Americana that way? And to be fair, could we ever get a painting like a Van Gogh work from a person like Norman Rockwell? But the great thing is that the world is a better place because we have both of them. Chocolate Thunder says, I think Marvel will still only do 3 movies a year. The fourth is a Sony movie in 21. The MCU made more in 2018 with 3 movies than 2019 with 2. Well, that makes sense. Far From Home is Sony's. You're right. But you know what? Marvel did okay in 2019. They had the biggest movie ever made, so it's pretty good. Chocolate Thunder also says, shower thought, all movies based on true stories are part of the largest cinematic universe. I like that. That all true stories are based on, they all make up the the largest cinematic universe. That's pretty funny. I enjoy that. But what are their interconnections? That's what I want to see. I'll tell you something. When Elizabeth and I watched Dunkirk, we also watched The Darkest Hour, which was 2 sides of that story. We got to learn about how Churchill dealt with it, and then also what was going on the ground and in the air. And you're right, they were definitely part of a shared cinematic universe. Dunkirk and The Darkest Hour, it's a double bill. We actually stopped one in the middle. We actually stopped Dunkirk in the middle and then went over and checked on what old Winston was doing in Merry Old Blighty. And it was quite a way to watch that movie. Then we came back to Dunkirk. It was really a good way to watch the film. Kevin Lewis says the only answer thematically by the MCU for this in-depth study of a psychotic comic book character like Scorsese's Joker is either Moon Knight, Molecule Man, or Sentry. You know what? All 3 of those choices are great. I love Moon Knight, but his whole craziness came later, or did it? But Sentry would be interesting, and so would Molecule Man. Those are all interesting choices. But the thing is, I think Moon Knight is the only person that you could actually do a Joker because he doesn't have superpowers. If you want to play him nuts and think that he's, lorded over by Khonshu, the god of the moon, you could. But I think that's the only character. Once you have superpowers and you get into that superpowered realm, it'd be harder to do a Joker-esque character study. So I'm going to go with my beloved Moon Knight. And by the way, if somebody made a Moon Knight movie like the Joker, color me stoked. I would love it. Mike Stanaland says, I saw Scorsese say he doesn't view Marvel films as cinema. Some of these larger films don't get the respect. How difficult they are to direct, though. Look, I agree. I know what Scorsese was trying to say. I know what he meant. But yeah, they're a whole different breed. It's just a different kind of a cinema experience, and I think it's just as legitimate and it's just as difficult to pull off as, say, a character study. This coming from the man who made Boxcar Bertha. Orange Hand said, many say films should be judged objectively, setting aside all biases and politics and judging it on its own merits. But can this really be achieved? I think so. I've been a big proponent of films being objective. I think there's an objectivity to great storytelling. There's mechanics that you can recognize. There's technique you can recognize ultimately. Now, I think you can objectively recognize the greatness of a film, but that doesn't mean you have to like it. Whether you like a movie or not doesn't necessarily affect whether it's objectively good. We shall see. Abner Torres says, I wanted to take some time and say thank you, John and friends, for always having kind things to say about Canada, America's hat. Stay filthy, you hosers. Well, Abner, let me just say I'm from Seattle, so I began my illustrious drinking career in Canada when I was 18. I also went to the World's Fair and saw ShowScan. I first saw a film projected at 60 frames a second in ShowScan at the World's Fair in Vancouver. I've been to Edmonton. I've been to Winnipeg. I've been to Montreal. I've never been to Toronto. I'm a huge Canada fan. Yes, I love poutine. So there you go. The Nocturnal Disney Podcast says, John, I don't know if you like metal music, but Ice Nine Kills put out a CD called The Silver Scream, all about horror movies like Saw and Jaws. Very cool. Well, Nocturnal Disney Podcast, I like that name. I don't know Ice Nine Kills, but I would love to listen to a metal record that's all about horror movies. What's better than horror and metal? Nothing. I can't think of anything better. Gaming with Aaron says, my friends and I argue about Rey being a Mary Sue, which drives me crazy, and I think it's a lazy way to describe her character and ignores her arc. Well, indeed. I think you might be right about that, Gaming with Aaron. Um, you know, I look, you're never going to get me to believe that somebody who's never stepped foot on the Millennium Falcon or flown it could fly it through the wreckage of a Star Destroyer as well as she did. So I think there's something to be said for that. And I know it's not because she has the Force. It's because the script said she could. I didn't buy that. They could have made a scene where I actually believed that she was flying the Millennium Falcon, but oh no, they basically put her in a stunt pilot sequence where she pulled off moves that I don't even think Han Solo could pull off. So there is an argument to be made. Kevin Lewis says, one flaw: the Joker is supposed to be, he was superposed, like superpowered. The Joker is supposed to be weak physically, but mentally equal to Batman, and I didn't see that in this iteration of the Joker. You know what has been pointed out to me many times today? This was his origin story, and maybe, when he's off his meds, he becomes, he becomes diabolically and maniacally crazy, but yet brilliant at the same time. We shall see. It'll be interesting to see. I don't necessarily think it's a flaw. This is just the origin. We don't know where he's going with it. We may never know, but it's certainly interesting to talk about and to mull over. Saigon Gaming says, Matt Reeves' Batman and the Joker in the same universe. Joker set in 1981. The Batman set in the 90s, around 10 years apart. So Bruce will be in his 20s. I gotta say, if Matt Reeves' Batman kicks ass, I wouldn't mind seeing whatever Joaquin Phoenix Joker morphs into. I wouldn't mind seeing them go T to T, head to head, whatever's going to happen. I don't even know what T to T is. Can you do that? I don't know. Raymond G says, John, you keep saying everything is about connected. Well, everything is connected. We are all connected. The Force surrounds us and binds us. Right? Ivan Prito says, Joker was amazing. I loved it. 9 out of 10. It's one of those movies I can only watch once or twice, though. I'll for sure buy the Blu-ray and watch one more time. You know what? I got to get that 4K disc just to look at the cinematography. Beautiful. Sujith says, Scorsese produced Joker. Did he not? I'm not sure about that. Maybe he did. I'm not sure if he is a producer on the film. Still, I knew he was going to. At one point, I thought he was directing. Raymond G says, universes, but other than Marvel, how many are there? DC briefly tried, has faded out. Dark didn't happen. Monsterverse hasn't happened. Hasn't been connected, really. So while the jaded talk, seems Marvel is the only one. You know what? I don't know. I mean, I liked the Monsterverse. I liked Godzilla King of the Monsters. I have it right here on 4K. I do not have the 3D disc. One day I might acquire it. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, the MCU is really the only universe. Don't forget Fast and the Furious, man. Don't forget Fast and the Furious. Barry C. says, do you have any advice for channel growth? Do I? Well, I'll tell you. Every day, you got to be consistent. You got to be putting out stuff. You got to tweet about it on social media. You got to develop your audience. You just got to be consistent. Bring a message. Have a point of view. Most of all, people want to think, I think people come to my channel and John's channel not just because of our, let's face it, vast knowledge, great looks, our witticisms, but I think we're friendly dudes that you want to hang out with. And we got friendly girls on the channel too, friendly ladies that are also equally delightful and very knowledgeable. And also working actresses, both Chris and Aaron are, which is amazing. But that, I think channel growth is have a point of view, have something to say, and you got to be a ground pounder every single day. You got to get in there. It's a grind, but you got to do it and slowly build your channel. Advertise yourself, promote yourself. That's what you got to do. John, though, is the master. I know he made a video about this a long time ago. I learned everything I knew from John Campea. I'm still learning every day. Zon's TV says, hey, John, can't wait to Joker and love the show. Well, I can't either again. I'm glad. Tell us right back. Tell us what you think. We need to know. Warren Wright says, read super chats and end with in bed. OMW to Joker now. Love the show, John. Well, let's try that. Oh, I can't do that in this one. Moss Q Unclub. My top 6, Good Will Hunting, Dark Knight, Mulholland Drive, Inception, Joker, and Pulp Fiction in bed. Because that's where you'd watch all of them. I like that. Let's try it one more time. Nick Barbera says, what impact role did Scorsese have with Joker in bed? No, I'm just kidding. Well, for those of you who don't know, if you haven't seen Scorsese's movies, King of Comedy, with Robert De Niro in it, and you haven't seen Taxi Driver, both of those movies are incredibly... the Joker owes a huge debt to those films. They're absolutely. And you got to check that out. watch those films. But I think he was actually going to either direct it at one point or produce it at one point. I don't know if he stayed on it. But the movie, Todd Phillips he owes such a debt of gratitude. He really does. Let's see. Angel Chang says, Scorsese watched all Fantastic Four and gave up. Maybe that's why he said that about comic book movies. But you know what? Tim Story's Fantastic Four movies aren't horrible. They're just not great. They're not great, but they're not horrible. I mean, I love The Silver Surfer. Green Arrow 7 says, Joker is great character, but vague social commentary and thematic vapidity drag it down a bit for me. Oscar nom for Phoenix. You know, there's a lot of people, it's pretty on the nose. And for those of you, or people like myself, who are old with one foot in the grave, we've seen a lot of movies that Joker sort of harkens back to, such as Scorsese's films, Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. So we have seen it. But if you haven't seen those movies, and admittedly, Taxi Driver's mid-70s and King of Comedy's early 80s, you can't be expected to see every movie ever made. So a lot of people are encountering Joker. They've never seen anything like it before. So it's mind-blowing to them, and we have to be mindful of that. But I agree with you. It's not as smart as it thinks it is, and I did think it was a little sort of empty-headed. As I said on my channel, I thought it lacked philosophy. That's what I wanted Joker to have a philosophy. You know, I talked about Rorschach from Watchmen, he tells a joke about Pagliacci the clown, and I want to see more of that philosophy. Green Arrow 7 says, Todd Phillips' woke comments are dumb. Edgy comedy exists today and is loved. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, South Park, etc. Hangover 2 and 3 sucked. That's why he left. Could very well be. I'm not going to argue with you there. Kurt Shan says, who do you have in the NRL National Rugby League Grand Final this weekend? Canberra Raiders or Sydney Roosters? You know what? I lived in Sydney for a year. I didn't know who was there, but I'm going to vote for the Roosters only because Sydney is one of the greatest cities I've ever been in, and I never went to Canberra. So, go Sydney. I guess that already happened. So I say this knowing not who won, but somebody already won. Double Crit says, is it just me or has DC been super quiet on Wonder Woman 84? No, I think they're just in post-production. They're making the movie. They're letting the storm that is the rest of this year. A lot of big movies coming out. Joker is the movie it was interesting that they did not have a new trailer for Wonder Woman 84 or a trailer. Maybe it's just because the effects aren't ready. I mean, who knows? I don't know. Maybe they're waiting to drop it around Christmas time. They know what they're doing. Walter Hamada's new regime at Warner Brothers is killing it, as evidenced by Aquaman, Shazam, and now Joker. All three movies very different, but very unique. Craziness. Haskell 420 says, wow, KABC traveling from LAX. Oh, this is so annoying. KABC is reporting that Los Angeles International Airport, which all of us in Los Angeles have to use, will soon be a bigger headache. LAX is set to bar curbside pickups by rideshare and taxi drivers. Instead, will require travelers to take a shuttle to a designated lot to catch their ride. Drop-offs allowed on the upper deck. Changes take effect 3 a.m. at the end of October. Yeah, man, I got to tell you, I do not like that. One of the great joys in life, I have to tell you, since this was the last question I had to answer in this chat, or this companion video, I want to say I love airports. I've loved airports since I was a little kid. I used to go out with my friend Jeff Swafford, and we go out to the SeaTac, Seattle International Airport, the Seattle Tacoma International Airport. We went out there, and that's what we did. So it was exciting, and I do not like the idea. Now, I don't know. They've said rideshare and taxis. Does that mean like I can't have somebody pick me up at the airport? Or does everybody have to take some kind of a tram or something? That would be annoying. But you can still be dropped off, so it's not all bad. But anyway, you're all correct. Once again, I love doing these companion videos. I want to thank you for being patient. I know I was supposed to do this over the weekend, and I didn't. I take full responsibility. Don't get mad at John. Well, get even. No, I'm just kidding. We very much appreciate the support on the channel. We love you guys. We love the audience. I think the John Campea Show is one of the great audiences on all of YouTube. Fight me, bro. Change my mind. Anyway, thanks for listening. I am Robert Meyer Burnett. I am here for John Campea, who was feeling under the weather. And you can always find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at RMBurnett. Or you can find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my own YouTube show, Robservations, usually every day, sometime between noon and 2. And I do deep dives and answer long questions, and find me there. But thanks for watching the John Campea Show. We very much appreciate your patronage, your audience-ship. And one of the great things is we love you guys because we love interacting with you. And you've got such interesting questions. Keep firing them in. Keep watching the show. It's great to have you. And I guess I should say, what does he say? You know what? I'm just going to say it because I don't get to hear him say it because I never am there. I'm going to go, bye-bye.